Hello, everyone, and welcome to the live class of Bhagavad Gita Week. My name is Giridhari, and it's a real pleasure to be here with you. I love Bhagavad Gita Week. We had 2,000 people signing up for Bhagavad Gita Week. Thousands of people watched these videos, so it was really good. And I'm really happy that you were all enjoying. I got some very nice messages as well and comments of people who are really enjoying it. And well, I just love doing it as well. So it's a real pleasure being here with you. And first of all, as you join, the idea today is to do a questions and answers. So as you know, if you're watching there, you can go ahead and start typing in your question in the chat, and I'll try to answer them. But also write your name and where you're watching from, because I'm always curious to know which countries are involved and who's watching from where. So go ahead and in the chat, put your name or, just where you're watching from. And of course, your questions. And today, earlier, I got an interesting question. And this person asked, how can we make Bhagavad Gita attractive? How can we make younger people attracted to Bhagavad Gita? And, I've been teaching Bhagavad Gita since the last millennium. And so it's been a while. I've got some experience. And what I answered him is that in general, it does seem that older people get into Bhagavad Gita. Most of my students are a little older, but, you do get the young students as well. And these young students, when you get somebody young, it's quite special because it's somebody who's really going beyond a lot of things. Because when you're young, especially these days, because of the economic situation all over the world, I mean, it's a struggle, isn't it? I mean, it's a struggle for everyone, but if you're young, it's a real struggle. I mean, it's like you're fighting for resources, you're fighting for jobs, you're fighting to stand out in a big crowd. It's hard. It's really hard. So what I see is that a lot of young people they just are totally caught up, of course, and then there's a whole social thing going on and learning to be an adult and all that stuff. The freedom of becoming an adult. But so not only is that whole social, emotional side of becoming an adult, but also just the struggle, right? Just the struggle to get the right course and to get the right, apprenticeship and the right job and just to rise in the job. And oh, it's so hard. So it's hard for those people to like go beyond all that, be able to do all that. And then also like take stock of life and be able to take a step back, just chill out a little bit and look around and then really start having these questions that, spirituality is all about, who am I and what am I really doing here? And is this really it? Right. So it's hard for that, So I do have so when you get like a young person involved, they're like really good. And I don't know if you know this, but Krishna talks about these people in Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 6, he says that, he says there are two kinds of yogis because Arjuna gets worried. Let me give you the context first. Arjuna, he's hearing Krishna describe yoga. And he gets worried because he says, oh, this looks really hard, Krishna. When Krishna starts talking about, like, oh, you have to control your mind, you have to be self controlled, practice tapas, So he says, oh, you know what, Krishna, this seems like, controlling the mind seems harder than it seems like trying to control the wind. That's what he says. It's like trying to control the wind. Can you imagine trying to control the wind? It's very hard. And Krishna says, yes, I know it's hard, but it's possible with practice and the right method, with determination, practice, and the right method. It's possible. And then he says, but Arjuna is still worried, so he wants to give Arjuna some insurances. And he says, look, Arjuna basically says, look, you don't have to worry about it because any amount of practice in yoga you put in, any effort you put into this path of Bhagavad Gita will pay off. So then he says, look, those yogis that fail after a short time, they get to be born in Swarga, in the celestial worlds. It's nice with I don't know if you guys watch, like half the world watches, but like these Marvel Thor movies, these Avenger Thor movies, of Marvel movies, they show a lot of these other worlds, the celestial worlds, before, you know, Asgard, that kind of thing. So that's like a nice Hollywood representation of what the Vedas describe as the celestial worlds. It's not the spiritual world, as you can see in the movies. It's just another place in the universe. But these celestial worlds called Swarga, they're very nice, as they show in the movie. So people are, they live much, much longer than humans, and they're much better looking and more powerful, et cetera, et cetera. So Krishna says, look, if you fail after a short amount of practice in yoga, you take birth in Swarga. So it's like a huge reward. Like you get a huge material reward for just following this path for a little bit. But he says, but those who advance more and still fail, they take immediate human birth in a family of transcendentalists, in a family of people who are already practicing, or anyway, they get this big push. So they get this big impetus to do it. And he says, they just take up that interest in the next life. So, like you were doing yoga and you're like, life finished, you didn't finish yoga. The next life, you start with this interest, you're looking for it. So the young people who get into this path, they usually like just that's who they are. These were these advanced yogis who didn't quite make it last life, but in this life, they're already like, okay, let me get going on this thing. And so it's very nice. But so anyway, let's see here. Oh, you guys been I've been writing, I've been speaking, you guys have been writing. So we have here Jaya Lakshmi from France. Hello. Hello, France. So I'm actually recording this from Wales, guys, just in case you were curious. So I am watching from France. Does eating meat create karma? Okay, that's a polemic question to start things off in. But yes, it does. Why? Yoga has a diet. There's a yogic diet that's recommended. It's not just a yogic diet. A huge part of yoga, and a part of which I love. Well, a beautiful thing about the path of Bhagavad Gita is that spirituality isn't separated from life. In fact, the more you understand Bhagavad Gita, the more you understand that your life will be your spiritual practice. Like your whole life and everything you do matters, which you would think that makes sense, right? Which, because we're talking about your mind, your state of consciousness. So obviously everything you do affects your mind, right? I mean, even neuroscientists will tell you that every single experience you have changes your brain. So in spiritual language, we use mind, we use brain. So everything changes your mind, affects your mind. So because of that, yoga comes with the concept of the gunas, which isn't something I covered in the classes, but it's definitely something we cover in the complete course, the complete Bhagavad Gita course. It represents 2.5 chapters of the 18 chapters of the Gita, so it's a huge topic. The gunas, they're a huge topic. They're called gunas. So the idea is that nature has three different kinds of, let's call them vibrations, gunas, and they're called sattva, rajas, and tamas. Okay. So, they're translated as mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance, which I don't really like those words so much. So I stick to the Sanskrit, sattva, rajas, and tamas. But the idea, without getting too much into it, the idea then is that your lifestyle, in my book, The 3T Path, I use the term lifestyle because I think it fits well. So yoga, Bhagavad Gita is telling you that your spiritual life is totally connected to your lifestyle. We see like I think it's a bit of a big problem in the Abrahamic traditions and the religions of the West, that people have this idea of like, okay, I have my religiosity, I go to my church, to my mosque, to my yeah. But then like what I do in life doesn't matter so much. It's like I do whatever here. I'll watch whatever, eat whatever, drink. But But no, in yoga, it's like, no, no, no. You have to cultivate a type of lifestyle, which would be called a sattvic lifestyle, which enhances your ability to become spiritual, to make the connection. You have to have that lifestyle. Otherwise, the connection is really bad. Because, let's imagine yoga as a kind of connection. Let's like right now, you guys are connected to the internet. I'm connected to the internet. So there's a connection, there's a quality of this connection, right? Now, imagine your spirituality, your yoga is going to be this connection. So the quality of this connection depends on your lifestyle. So if you have a what's called a tamasic lifestyle, then your connection is really bad. It's really poor. And things are going to get confusing. You're going to be confused. You're going to make mistakes. Everything gets troubled. Your mind is covered more densely. Your thoughts aren't clear, not as clear as they could be. Do you see? So, going back to your question, one of the important items in a sattvic lifestyle then is the sattvic diet, because, of course, the old adage, you are what you eat. So, certainly, like what you eat affects your consciousness. It certainly affects your body, and everything that affects your body affects your mind. So, a sattvic lifestyle requires a different kind of food, sattvic food. And so, sattvic food is food that isn't dense, isn't you know doesn't come with a heavy vibration, and meat is very heavy. It's death. It's not even, because it's not even being a carnivore, because carnivores eat live animals, so it's eating like dead flesh. It's a worse kind of practice. It's like you're eating something that's been dead for a while. And it comes with that violence of the death, ahimsa, like, so you broke ahimsa. So it comes with violence. So that energy of violence, of rotten stuff, that's very heavy. So that will block your connection. So no, so we definitely one of the, once you become serious, one of the steps you want to take is to adopt it used to be lacto-vegetarian diets, because before they would take very good care of the cows, of the cattle. But today, it's a bit heavy, so mostly we recommend a vegan diet. But it traditionally it was lacto-vegetarian. Okay. Um, hello, Gigi Verlander from the UK. Susan from Portland, Oregon. Wow, okay. Tanja Nirurata from San Francisco. Very nice. Jai Lakshmi. So also, if you want to read Gita, can we read any publication? So Jai Lakshmi, you certainly can. You have the liberty. But do I recommend you read any publication? No, I don't. Because what I've seen, I mean, I've seen so many, versions of Bhagavad Gita. And, you know, a lot of the old, like spiritual leaders, people who would go, you know, translate and publish Bhagavad Gita, you'd have two kinds, right? You have like the academic type translating Bhagavad Gita, and the spiritual leader type, the practicing type. So there's two, basically two types, of course, of people who can publish a Bhagavad Gita. Now, on the purely academic side, when you get an academic who isn't practicing, like how much does he really get? He's an outsider. You know what I'm saying? He's like, no, he can study, but still he's an outsider. So he doesn't really know what the content is. And so he's just going to be influenced by others, you know, indirectly influenced by other practitioners. So I don't recommend that kind of Bhagavad Gita. Now, in terms of the spiritual practitioner, then you have another problem, because a lot of spiritual practitioners, especially like in the olden days, in India, they weren't so concerned about having like a bona fide literal translation, a clear presentation of Bhagavad Gita. They were more concerned in just transmitting their own teachings. So then the translations, they like I've seen these things. I mean, like wildly like wild liberty in translating. So like it's like what the translation is like what that's not even what the text like just because they're pushing their ideas. So then you have that problem where you're reading, you think it's Bhagavad Gita telling you something, but it's actually that person telling you something through the Bhagavad Gita. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a little complicated. So the version I recommend is the version I use for our complete Bhagavad Gita course. When you sign up for our complete course, you'll get a copy of this book, and we go through the book in the course. So the version we use for the course was done by my spiritual master. And it's beautiful because it's both things. He is a PhD from Harvard in Sanskrit and Indian studies, and he's a practitioner. So he's writing, so he lives Bhagavad Gita, and he's a, proper, Harvard academic, um, you know, Sanskrit scholar. And his purpose was to make a literal translation, as clean, as literal as possible. So I love that. I really love that. I think it was a game changer, honestly, because though there are probably hundreds of I'm sure hundreds, right, of translations of Bhagavad Gita, this one really hit the mark because it had this super rare combination of having the author be both a proper trained academic and a practitioner. So it's a great book. It's called you know, Guide to Bhagavad Gita with Literal Translation by H.D. Goswami. So that's the book I recommend. And you can write to me and leave a comment here if you want to get a copy of it or find out how to get a copy on Amazon. Okay. Tanja from Lindale, Texas. Nice. Watching from Maryland, New Jersey. Nice. Um, Glenda, having problems with your email. Glenda, just write to me through the comments. Leave comments here on the videos, and we can get back to you through the comments. Um, Mumtaz, how do you know you are on the right path to your soul purpose? That's a nice question, Mumtaz. Okay, how do you know you're on the right path to your soul purpose? Well, for one thing, it starts with like, what is the soul? You have to know, you have to get jnana. This is the strategy Krishna uses in Bhagavad Gita. This is the yoga strategy. Not just Bhagavad Gita, but all like, when the Vedas start going into yoga and spirituality, they all have the same technique, which is different from the Abrahamic traditions. So the first thing we do is knowledge. It's called jnana. So first you need jnana. You have to know, who am I? That's why the first thing Krishna teaches in Bhagavad Gita is, okay, Arjuna, you're not your body. And he spends 20 verses trying to like, Arjuna, this is before I start, understand you're not your body, because we're all thinking we're our body. That's the position we're in as materialists. Right? If I'm a materialist, I'm like, okay, this is me. I'm a guy. I'm this. I was born in this country. I do this thing. I look like this. These are my tendencies. Blah blah blah. My family, my country. Right? It's all the I and mine. The Vedas use this term, I and mine. It's all about I and mine. But no, it turns out we're not the body. So we're something else completely different. We're Atma. So you have this term in Sanskrit in Bhagavad Gita, Atma. And Atma, we translate it as soul, but a better translation is just like we're like eternal beings, eternal persons. And eternal means like ever existing in the past and ever existing in the future. So eternal in both sense. We were never created. We will never be destroyed. So that's like a fantastic start to things. So once you know, okay, I'm an Atma, I'm this eternal person. And then you have to understand, okay, is there anything else I should know? Yeah, well, there is. Yes, that's why Bhagavad-gita has 700 verses, not just one. So, yeah, so then you have to understand where you are and what reality is. And is there a God? And what is God like? And what has God have to do with you? And and we know there's this place here, but is there another place? And then so Krishna talks about his abode, the transcendental abode, the spiritual abode, what in the Abrahamic traditions we call the kingdom of God. So you have to learn about these things. So you need all this jnana. And then once you get in, and Bhagavad Gita does that for you, it gives you this whole package. That's why Krishna presents everything systematically. First, like who you are, and then he talks, about himself, and then he talks about his abode, and he's talking about how to get there, and how to, what's this and what's not this, and how to do it and how not to do it, and how to advance, and what holds you back. So you need all this jnana. And then you get to the point of understanding, okay, so then love is the goal, and I'm going to connect. It's called bhakti. I'm going to connect in bhakti and love to God, and have an eternal existence in love. So, and then so these things, and then there's all like, and then Arjuna asks Krishna, so how do we know? How does this person behave? How does a perfected person behave? There's several times you see these verses in Bhagavad Gita describing the state of perfection, what you call, which I think you're calling here the soul purpose, describing this attainment of this highest level. It's called this, to use the Sanskrit of Sanatanam Dharma, this eternal Dharma, because Dharma can be translated as purpose and Sanatana, eternal. So, what is our eternal? I call this spiritual Dharma, your spiritual purpose. So, it's all like, how do you behave? How do you feel? What's it like? How can you gauge your advancement? So, there's lots of qualities for you to gauge your progress with. But I'll just give you one key metric of your spiritual advancement, one key metric is equanimity, which Krishna uses from beginning to end of Bhagavad Gita. He touches on this point. Equanimity. Equanimity means the highs and lows of life don't get to you. They don't affect your consciousness because they're happening out here, and they don't affect you in here. Equanimity means that you are equal, the same, if things are going well or if the going gets tough. If things are going your way or it looks like things are not going your way. Like good days and bad days, highs and lows, because that's material life, right? Things are like that. You have good days and bad days. Sometimes things go well, so other times things don't go well. Sometimes you're healthy, sometimes you're sick, sometimes you have money, sometimes you have debts. Sometimes you have nice relationships, sometimes you have toxic relationships, right? Sometimes you get hired, sometimes you get fired. So these highs and lows in yoga, we learn to keep that out there. But in here, equanimity. I'm doing great. I'm doing fine. We use this yoga technique of focusing on Dharma, which I explained in the third class. We keep focused here on Dharma, on the here and now, mindfulness in Dharma. So these ups and downs, they don't affect me so much because I'm always focused. Equanimity, my one focus is being the here and now in my Dharma, and of course in bhakti, in connection, in yoga. So, great question. Sorry for there's lots of parts to the answer to that question. Cool. Okay, Manon from Rotterdam, Netherlands. Nice. Okay, Jai Lakshmi with another nice question. When I pray, is it important to hold my hands together and pray the praying position, or mm, as I'm praying from my heart, it is okay? It is okay. Yeah, God doesn't care where your hands are. What if you don't have hands? You can't pray. No, you can pray in any situation. And praying is a great thing. I love praying in the sense of connection, because praying for me, of course, there's the standard prayers, right? You learn nice mantras, nice verses, and you can do that. You can use a nice mantra as a connection prayer. That's very nice. But I like more just prayer in the sense of opening your heart to God, to Krishna. It's nice. You just, because he's there with you all the time. You're there with God. God is with you all the time. The thing is, we don't know it. We have to become aware of it. But actually, God is there with us all the time. So the more we become aware of this constant connection, which is what yoga is, bhakti yoga, the more you just open your heart and you have these conversations, you have these exchanges with Krishna, where you can also feel, you of course, you're revealing your heart, your doubts, your fears, whatever, but also your desires to serve, to advance. The more you advance, the more your desires are just in serving. It's funny, or not funny, but it's interesting, remarkable that if you study the prayers of the great souls in the Vedas, what you'll see is that they're praying not for anything for their material life. Krishna says that's okay. Krishna says in chapter 7, that's one of the Mahatmas. He uses the term Mahatma. You might have heard this term, Maha, great, Atma, soul. So great soul. He says that person who prays to God for material things, for money, is a great soul. He uses Mahatma. But he says that person who just connects purely, that's even better. So as you advance, of course, sure, you might want to pray for things, but I tell my students, don't bother praying for things, because honestly, there's not much chance Krishna's going to give you those things. You know why? Because he loves you and he's going to give you what you need to advance spiritually, not to entangle you further in Maya. What you'll get from when you connect with God in love, he's going to help you. When you ask for his help, he's going to help the real you, not ahankar, not the false you, the false ego. He's going to help the real you. And what the real you really needs is to become enlightened in this lifetime, which you can, which Krishna says in Bhagavad-gita, you can. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how heavy your past is, what horrible actions you have performed. Doesn't matter. Like, you could be like the worst person in this world right now, and you can become enlightened in this lifetime. Krishna says this in Bhagavad Gita. So that's what you really need, is to become enlightened. That is your supreme goal. Everything else may look interesting now, but it's just a joke. Good example is dreams, right? Every night you dream. So think about some dream, or just dreaming in general. You don't have to remember, because it's hard remembering dreams, right? But maybe you can. But anyway, just imagine you're in a dream. And in this dream, as in all dreams, something's happening, right? You have something going on. Sometimes you have a car, and sometimes you have a house, and sometimes you're doing something. Now, remember, think about that situation now. And now you're praying for something in that dream. How foolish would that be? Like, oh, no, no, I wish I had a different car in my dream. Like, really? I mean, it's just a dream. What difference does it make? You're gonna wake up. Like, how how would it help you really to have had a different car in the dream you had, last week? It wouldn't help you at all. It's like zero, right? It's completely useless. No, no. I wish I had nicer clothes in my dream last night. It's completely useless, right? It's like it's zero, zero. And that's exactly what material things are in this life. That's exactly it. The comparison holds perfectly. It's not just like a metaphor, it's exactly the same situation. So when you pray for material things, it's like, okay, fine. For one thing, Krishna is not going to just give you everything you ask for anyway, because it's just going to entangle you. It's going to make you go crazy anyway. He wants you to be sober and enlightened, not to get crazy with material life, for one thing. And then what he really wants, of course, is for you to become enlightened. So so the prayers of the advanced souls you see in the Vedas, they're all praying for more connection. Oh, please, Krishna, let me never forget you and always remember you. Oh, please engage me in your loving service. Please allow me to serve you. Please allow me to serve your devotees. Please allow me to be of use to you. It's very beautiful. In bhakti, we don't ask God to serve us. We ask to serve God because that's where the nectar is. That's love. That's spiritual love, which is even better than mundane love, material love, based on bodies and physical connection. So, what we want is that love. We want to attain that state of love. It's called prema, Krishna prema. So, our prayers are in that sense of please let me engage in service. Let me be of use to you. There's a beautiful saying from a spiritual master of my spiritual master, 3 generations removed. And he says, don't don't ask to see God, but act in such a way that God will want to see you. It's beautiful, isn't it? I love that. Don't ask to see God because everyone, oh, I want to see God. No, don't ask to see God, but act in such a way that God will want to see you. Very nice. Okay. Let's get going here. Hi, Yada from Brazil. Hi, Yada. Nice having you here as well. Ninuratra. Each person is an individual, but as a family, do you connect with Dharma of your family members? If needed, how do you help correct the Dharma as a family? Okay, nice question, Nino. So, one of the dharmas, as you saw in my third class, I used the term personal dharma. So, in personal dharma, one of our 7 categories of dharmas in my system, one of them is personal dharma, and within personal dharma, of course, your family relationships are hugely influential, right? There are other personal dharmas such as your, work colleagues and your neighbors and your boss and the supermarket checkout person. Like there's other people in the world, of course, but of course the family, and your friends as well. But yeah, family is huge. Now, we depending on the dharma you have, you may not want to correct other people. It may not be your dharma to correct other people's dharma. Let me give you an example. For example, if you're the mother and father, if you're in a position where it is your dharma to teach and guide, for example, your children, and then, yes, as part of your dharma as mother and father, maybe even uncle and grandfather, it might be your dharma to correct the dharmic behavior of the child. So you say, no, child, you should do it like this. This is correct. This isn't correct. This isn't nice. This is the path. This is wrong. And this is why it's wrong. So you might want to correct their dharmic behavior because it is actually your dharma to do that. But the other way around, mm, not so good, right? So it's usually not a good idea for you to try to correct your father, correct your mother, your grandfather. It's like, it's not your dharma. So maybe you have a chance, but maybe it's going to be a disaster. It's going to blow up in your face, right? Have you ever tried to correct someone when it wasn't your dharma and it just blows up in your face? I mean, even when it is your dharma, it blows up in your face, but when it's not, when you try to correct like an older brother or a father, mother, just blows up in your face because it's not your dharma. That's not the right relationship. Okay. As a family, you have your role in the family, but they have their roles and they have their ideas as well. So to some extent, sure, you're there to influence, you can speak, you can suggest, but you have to respect the dynamic of the family. So you don't like try to rule over the family when nobody elected you to rule over the family. And in yoga, the most important thing is that you do your dharma. Maybe you live in a family of crazy people and they're all completely nuts, but as long as you're doing your part, that's what counts. And for some people who are in very toxic families, the best thing is just to get out. You don't have to stay. You create some space, create some distance, step out, move away, do your own thing. You don't have to suffer other people's low consciousness. You're not obliged to do that. That is not your dharma to you're not Atlas carrying the world on his shoulders. That's not you're not Atlas. You don't have to carry other people on your shoulder. Just to the point, of course you have young children, then you have to do it. But that's it, aside from, like, parent taking care of young children, which, they just have to, like, deal with it and, carry them literally, But aside from that relationship, which has which only lasts until they become adults, of course, you don't have to suffer, the ignorance of other people, the toxicity of other people. So you don't have to remain in a unsafe, you know, unhealthy environment. You should feel independent enough to seek out and build a nice relationship situation somewhere else, just redo it some other way, or even just be alone and in blissful solitude. I don't know if I answered your question. Let me know. Victoria Bontoso, namaste from the island of Crete in Greece. Nice. I have a student in Crete. Um, Varada from Slovenia. Very nice. I was born in Prague, so close to you. Victoria, we know that thoughts and emotions affect the vibration of chakras and create disease. It's the same when seven dharmas, seven chakras are in imbalance and not fulfilled. Do we have, again, a good reason for disease in the chakras related to organs? I would say so, because when you're not living your dharmas, you are in imbalance. And we've all experienced this, at least at some point in our lives. And a lot of people live in that kind of lack of harmony. I like the word harmony because it really feels like, for me at least, like harmony, like a vibration, like things are aligned. When there's one dharma, it was one of the seven categories out of sync. It's like a note that's wrong in a symphony. It just the harmony goes, the balance. You can use balance as well, but things are off. Things aren't aligned, right? So, for example, people who you might be doing really well in your job, you might be doing well taking care of your body, but then your family relationships are a disaster, or you're just not being a good husband, wife, mother, father, whatever. That's it, the whole thing's ruined, it's a mess. It's like a symphony. You can have like 40 people playing beautifully, but one person is off, the whole thing's off. The whole thing's like, oh, that doesn't sound right. Right? It spoils. It just takes one musician in the symphony to be off, and the more he's off, the more you know painful it's going to be, right? And that's life, so if you get one thing off, it starts getting really bad, like as the Mahabharata says, when you harm dharma, you get harmed by dharma. When you hurt dharma, you get hurt by dharma. So it's like not doing your true dharma just creates this pain in your mind. Your mind is out of balance, out of sync, out of harmony. So definitely then you start having bad emotions. You have anxiety. You have anxiety. You're anxious because things are wrong. It's not pleasant. Again, it's like listening to an unpleasant sound and a lack of harmony. It's like, oh, it hurts. Right? It's like, oh, I don't want to hear that. And then as soon as you're like that, as soon as you're feeling anxiety, we know from science that that's going to create disease, right? So as soon as you're not well, of course you're going to be off. You're going to be feeling frustration. You're going to be feeling anxiety, fear. So definitely you're going to have disease. And of course, if you're not taking care of your personal dharma, which is taking care of your physical body, then you're directly going to have a disease. You're directly not taking care of yourself. So yeah, definitely very important. And in my point of view, from when I try to pass what I truly believe is that this is totally essential. I mean, in my book, The 3T Path, I speak about the importance of emotional regulation. I speak about managing your emotions. I give techniques on emotional management. Very important. It's one of the e- essential, I call them the 5 avenues of perfection. And one of these avenues is I call inner peace, which includes this component of regulating your emotions, managing your emotions. So very important. I'm totally into that. I'm totally subscribed to the idea of being very careful about your emotional um, pains and curing your emotional pains. Very, very crucially important, or else everything goes to hell. Because if you have one, you know, uncured emotional pain, your mind is disturbed. There's like, this is like white noise, like you can't decide things correctly, you can't see things straight. I mean, your spiritual life gets derailed. It's very important. So there's that, but also the basis then is you have to have this great life. The better your life is, the more aligned your life with this sattvic lifestyle, the yogic lifestyle, yogic consciousness, the techniques, everything we transmit in Bhagavad Gita in this complete course, the more then you have a base standard of health, of well-being, of inner peace, of harmony. And of course, that's, the foundation of good health, physical and mental. Gita, namaste. How can a mother love her child without getting attached? Classic question, Gita. The thing is, we don't understand the word attached. And what I recommend you do is this. One great way of doing this is this. For one thing, we need jnana. Again, we need spiritual vision. If we don't have spiritual vision, we're in darkness. We're in Maya. It's called Maya in the Vedas. We're in illusion. You don't want to be an illusion, right? We don't want to be crazy. Like a person who's crazy is an illusion. We don't want to be crazy. So you need jnana to see things as they are, right? So, first step, see things as they are. That being there, which is now your child, it's like, oh, there's this little body here came out of my body, and it's like, looks like me, and blah, blah, blah. But actually, that is an eternal soul. That's an Atma, just like you are. And that Atma has been around since forever. That Atma was not created. It certainly wasn't created by you. That is an eternal being, older than the stars, older than everything, because it's non-existent. It's just as old as God, and God isn't old. He just always existed. So that is an eternal, ever existing being. So that's nice. So let's start with that. Kiana, like, okay, this, I call my child is actually an eternal being who happens to have reincarnated now as my child. Due to its karma, due to my karma, we're now in this relationship. So that's jnana. Second, that soul will move on, as will I. So, as much as you think you're attached to this soul who's now in the role as your child, you don't even think about the child you had last lifetime, do you? You don't care about that person. What about the children you had 10 lifetimes ago? You don't give a, I'm not, no, I don't want to say you don't give a damn, but I just said it now. So you don't give a damn about them, or you never even thought about them. So what happened to all those children you had 10 lifetimes ago? You don't care. You never even thought of them. What about 100 lifetimes ago? 1,000 lifetimes ago? You've had children thousands and thousands of times. You've been mother and child and son and father and grandfather and uncle and everything you can think thousands and thousands of times. So that helps to give some perspective. So that soul will move on. You will move on. You will forget that person. That person will forget you. So then what do you do? Do you just like, oh my God, do I just get this person, chuck him out the window? No, 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 no. You should love, not become attached, but love. And what does love mean? As Mother Teresa said, great prayer. The fruit of love is service. So what we want is to serve. And what service? Dharma. Dharma means to serve. Purpose, right? Purpose, serve. So you have the Dharma of a mother. It is your duty to serve this child as a mother. And what is your biggest duty as a mother? The Vedas tell you to liberate and free this soul from samskar, from samsara. That is your biggest duty, is to free this little Atma soul, not little because it's just an Atma soul, just like all the other Atma souls, is to free this person, this little person from samsara. That is your biggest dharma as a mother. Srimad Bhagavatam says like that, don't become a mother, father, teacher, guru if you cannot free your dependents from samsara. So then it gives you perspective. So your duty is to serve, aware that is a temporary relationship, because you know it's temporary, right? You're not in the illusion it's forever, because you were born and that child was born and you're going to die and the child's going to die, and you don't know which order that's going to happen in, right? I mean, you know that you were born first and the child was born later, but you don't know what the order of death will be. So aware of these things, you just focused, like I said in the third class, in the here and now, on your dharma of serving. Your dharma is serving as a mother. And you do that, as I explained in the first class, as an offering to Krishna. So then another way to look at it, it's very nice, like a more poetic way to look at it, is to see that this is not your child, but it is God's child. And you're serving that child for God. That's a nice way to see it. A spiritual master in our lineage from the 19th century, he had 10 children. 10. So he says, it's not my home, it's God's home, and I take care of it. It's not my wife, it's God's wife, and I take care of it. It's not my children, it's God's children, and I take care of them. So that's a very beautiful meditation you can, apply. So it's God's child. You're taking care of it. It's your dharma, it's your duty, and that's your love. And you can enjoy that love because that is a soul's top thing, just that love and to serve. But not grabby, not a grabby love. Oh, gotta have it, gotta be mine. No, because it's not yours. It's God's child. It's an eternal soul who's got his own karma. And maybe the karma is to go earlier, and that's fine. And maybe it's that child's gonna become enlightened and leave before you do. And that's great. That's amazing. The child, okay. You will go to some other life and he'll be fine. Just as you were here and you were in some other life and you were born and your child was in some other life and it was born and everybody's coming and going and all the people are taking birth and dying and just, not get attached That's attached to be grabby, to try to grab. No, just flow in love. And then you can really love without fear. Okay. Shannon from Milwaukee. Nice. Oops. I'm sorry. Skipped a little bit here. Oops. Okay, here we go. Fadia from Syria. Nice. I don't think anybody from Syria watching. That might be a first for me. Prasad, sir, I am from India and I am preparing for government service exam. I can't say focus and I can't follow discipline. Please help me. How Bhagavad Gita help me to be focused and disciplined? Totally will help you because yoga is all about focus and discipline. Discipline is called tapas. You have to do the right thing, do your Dharma, focus in the here and now. So yoga is all about training the mind to do that. And then the lifestyle that I was talking about, the sattvic lifestyle has a big impact on your ability to calm your mind. So you can, in fact, have focus and discipline. A simple example, I spoke about sattvic lifestyle, and then the opposite of that would be tamasic lifestyle, where meat was situated. So if I'm eating meat, another thing in tamasic lifestyle is drugs and alcohol, for example. So if I'm eating meat and I'm doing drugs and I'm doing alcohol, then I have no control over my mind, right? I mean, the obvious example, like if you're really drunk, you completely like have no control. So your lifestyle has a big impact, and of course, practice. So will Bhagavad Gita overnight make you focused? Of course not. It's not a magic pill. Nothing will. There's nothing like that in the world. But certainly, if you've been practicing Bhagavad Gita, and if you start doing that now, you will attain more and more discipline and focus because that is the yogic path. That is the yoga path. Focus and discipline. So good luck on your studies. Um, Gigi, do you need to do yoga to follow this path? I am passionate and practice Qigong every day. So will this affect me moving forward with this teaching? Absolutely not, Gigi. No, no. The yoga of the mat, I call that mat yoga, it's called Hatha yoga, has nothing to do with Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita has nothing to do with this modern, it's called modern, academically, it's called modern yoga. You'll see in my book, The 3T Path, that this yoga is not even 100 years old. It's 90 years old. Made famous by Krishna Macharya. So this thing of the mat and the sequence of postures, the yoga you people do in yoga studios and stuff and YouTube channels, that has nothing to do with Bhagavad Gita. So I don't practice that yoga. It just got nothing to do with it. Okay. And I actually did practice Tai Chi for many years while doing Bhagavad Gita. So actually, there was a time in my life where I was doing like 2 hours a day of Tai Chi. So I love it. No problem at all. Mumtaz, thanks for the answer. We need to be grounded in one word. Yes, very good. Andrea Butterfly, love the thing about dreams. Nice to see you here, Andrea. Giada Yogargento, you send messages. Jai Lakshmi, connected to my first question. If I choose not to eat meat, am I cooking meat for my family? Is it okay? Now, that's another question I get a lot. And, you might not like my answer, and your family probably won't like it either. But what I say is no, you shouldn't do it for your family. Why? Simple thing. Let's say you understand meat eating is bad for your consciousness. It's certainly bad for your body. It's very bad for the planet. I mean, if you don't know this yet, there are whole documentaries on the topic. There's a beautiful documentary came out, Eating Our Way to Extinction. Simple title, right? Eating Our Way to Extinction. Look it up. A whole documentary just on this topic. It's a very well-known point. The UN has remarked on it. If you haven't got your head in the sand, you'll know that the meat industry, everything, cows, chickens, pigs, it is hugely disastrous for the environment. Hugely. It is the worst thing for the environment. It's much more than you might be thinking, oh, the problem is the steel mills, or some microprocessor industry, or you know trucks and airplanes. No, no, the worst thing is the meat industry. It's destroying the planet, destroying. I'm from Brazil. I'm Brazilian. And in Brazil, the Amazon, you've all heard about the Amazon being destroyed, right? We're all worried about the Amazon. You know why the Amazon's destroyed? For cows, for cattle. That's why it's destroyed. So when you eat beef, you're helping destroy the Amazon. That's why they destroy the Amazon. There's no other reason people go there just for fun, knocking trees down, just for the hell of it. No, they do that so they can have pasture for the cattle, which then they sell to the other countries. The fishing industry, hugely problematic. There's a whole documentary just on that. It's called Seaspiracy. Look it up. It's a great documentary. Seaspiracy, like in one word, Seaspiracy, like conspiracy in the sea in one word, Seaspiracy. Hugely dramatic destruction of the ocean. And if the oceans die, the whole planet dies. I even tell my students, look, first thing, stop eating fish. Just do that first. Stop eating fish and seafood. Then red meat. If you do that, man, the planet thanks you. Mother Bhumi says thank you. That's a huge step because then you stop destroying the forest, you stop destroying the Amazon. I mean, the ocean, the forest and the ocean. That's like a huge thing. So yeah, huge. And so anyway, sorry, I get carried away with these things. In my book, The 3T Path, I lay out 7 reasons why you should stop eating meat, and they're all very good reasons. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that here. But let's say you understand that it's bad for you, it's bad for the planet, it's bad for your body. Let's say you understand this. Why would you go ahead and feed your family with something you know is bad? It's a known fact that red meat, for example, increases the chance of certain types of cancer. Why would you want your children to have a better chance of getting cancer? I mean, you might want your husband. No, no, not kidding, I'm just joking. But why would you want to do that? You wouldn't want to do that, right? So what I recommend my students is like, just tell them, there are restaurants in the world. They can go out. If they're so bloodthirsty, they can go out and eat meat somewhere without you. But at home, you care for their family, you care for their health, you care for their minds, you care for their planet and their future, so you don't participate in that nonsense anymore. I'm currently in a dilemma. This is from Senfman 132. I grew up a Christian, but since reading the Gita, Hinduism makes so much more sense to me. But whenever I pray to Jesus, I feel like there's actually somebody listening. And I don't have that when praying to deities of Hinduism. Is it because my cultural background that I feel closer connection to Jesus than Hinduism, even though Hinduism makes more sense to me? That is a great question. I loved your question. That's very nice. Very nice question. For one thing, what's going on? Two things I'm thinking here. First thing, God is in your heart. Krishna says this in Bhagavad Gita, okay? Bhagavad Gita, clear teaching. Krishna says it over and over again. I'm in your heart. And I've always been there, he says. So God has always been with you. understand this. When you connect with somebody else, what's really happening is that you're an Atman, you're this transcendental being. You're covered by these different layers of matter. Okay. And then through this matter, you manifest, and then you go through other matter like the air when you speak, or, like something else, right? When you write. So you're stuck, you're enveloped in matter. And then through matter, you connect to this other body, which is, covered. And then there's the other soul. So actually, we're not in touch with any other Atma because we're all just, there's just so many layers in our connection, so much distortion, right? So the message is like, it's just getting translated, and it's like what you thought, and then your body, and what came out of you, and then what was, the words, and then that person heard it in one way, and they interpreted it in one way, and then it finally gets to them. So we don't have any like nice, clean, direct connection with any soul, really. That's why there's so much misunderstanding. It's so hard to have a good relationship or a long-lasting relationship because it's just so much noise involved. But since forever and forevermore, you have a direct connection with God. He's right there with you, soul to soul, no matter in between. No body, no mind, nothing in between. It's just you are just directly there, connected, the two of you in perfect connection, right? So when you do anything in the sense of connecting with God, He is totally hearing you 100%. He is connected with you there. When, going back to, we had questions about mothers and children. When a little child, if you had children, when they're really young, of course they can't speak, right? They just make noises, they cry, they go, "Meh, meh, meh, meh." But the mother responds, the father responds, right? The child doesn't know the name of the mother. The child doesn't know the name of the father. They just make some noise. And the mother and the father respond. And they're there for the child. God is exactly like that. Krishna says in Bhagavad-gita, I am the father, the mother, and the grandma and the grandfather. So any attempt of yours to connect to God and any idea you have with any name, He's going to be there. Hello, yes, I'm here, darling. What do you want? My beautiful boy, my beautiful girl. What do you want? Just like a mother and a father would be there with their little baby. He's right there. So if you say, oh, no, Jesus is God, He'll say, okay, whatever. You call me Jesus. You can call me Betty. You can call me whatever you want. I'm here for you. And He's going to respond to that. And that's why, people feel connection calling for God as Jesus, calling for God as Allah, calling for God as Krishna, calling for God as Ram. Some people call for God as Shiva, Lord Brahma, whatever. God will respond because He's right there with you. So actually, you're speaking with Krishna. You're saying Jesus, but He's like, okay, He doesn't know my name. That's fine. You can call me whatever. I don't care. I love you, right? I mean, if you love your child, again, you don't care how the child communicates with you, what they call you. Papa, mama, mama. It's like, okay, you think that's amazing. They're just like, mama. You think, oh, they said so perfect. That's it. You're completely there, right? They don't have to say, yes, excuse me, sir, and give your full name or something. No. So actually, you're already in touch with God. There's only one God. God is just one. It isn't like, oh, there's a thing here with Jesus, and then there's a whole other thing here, and I'm going to go for Krishna, and it's like a different path. No, it's just one thing. But then, like, that's what you got is the Jesus thing. And so then, let's go to neuroscience now. Neuroscience has this thing called the anchor influence. So you're anchored by one concept. So when we anchored by one concept, that's where we are. It's hard to like move on because that's the first thing we got. So then we got kind of like stuck there. You'd have to lift the anchor and move forward, but then we can kind of stuck there. So naturally, you have this anchor influence of like, no, I had the whole Jesus thing, and but just know that that Jesus connection is actually Krishna. It's actually God in your heart. And with all due respect, Jesus really isn't God. He never said he was God. Only people said he was God much later. It doesn't really make sense. So let's not get into that. But, you know, the Father, let's put it like that. You're in touch with the Father because the Son's gone. The Son is gone. The Son came, great, amazing, wow, gone. But the Father has always been there in your heart, and he's in everyone's heart and has been since before Jesus, of course. Since before the avatar came down and left, he was always there. So your contact is actually directly with God. So now that you're calling it Hinduism, but forget Hinduism because that's also a crazy term. Think of Bhagavad-gita. So now from Bhagavad-gita, you will learn that that is actually Krishna. And then as you go deeper into your yogic practice, your bhakti yoga practice, you'll learn more and more about God the Father and his abode and what he's like. And then you'll be able to connect with him more and more and more. And that's what's really going on here. And that's what Jesus was teaching. Jesus was teaching you to connect with God. Jesus was born a Jew, lived as a Jew, and died as a Jew. And as such, he was always just preaching people to love God, the Father. He never asked people to love him and worship him as God. Never. He would never do that. It would be nuts for him. It would be like completely crazy. If he could come back now and see that, he'd be like, "What?" He'd be shocked and he'd be disappointed too. Because honestly, like what you don't want is if you're a guru and you're trying to teach people to love God, you don't want them to like get another mistake and start loving you as God. And I was just like, God, I'm trying. It's Krishna, it's that way. He's like you're worshiping me, but that's not me. It's the Father. So Jesus loved the Father. Jesus wasn't worshiping himself; he was worshiping God. And so God is described. That's why like I explained in the second class, you know, this is why Krishna came to present God to the world that didn't have God. This is the tradition that presents God in detail, which wasn't presented in the Christian tradition. That's why they got confused with Jesus because they didn't have anything else to go with. Because the information just wasn't there, you know. So the more you study, you should also study as you're getting deeper into your religion, spirituality. I recommend the works of Bart Ehrman. That's Ehrman starting with an E. So Bart Ehrman there's others, but that's just one great Jesus scholar, one of the topmost academic scholars of the day concerning Christianity. So I suggest you study also, like just academically study the tradition of Judaism, of Christianity, and the birth of Christianity and the Jesus tradition. And you'll learn lots of things and you'll see how it was developed. You'll be able to like directly examine yourself with your intelligence how Christianity is actually a Greek religion constructed on the figure of Jesus, on stories of Jesus, but not actually created by Jesus. There wasn't his thing. It was something that was done on him, not by him. It's something you can study and find out for yourself. I mean, of course, we all can have different opinions, and I don't mean to offend anyone. I'm just giving you my point of view here from having studied these things for many decades. Okay, Rita, namaskar from the Netherlands. Radha and Krishna, Jai Radha and Krishna are always mentioned together. What is their connection according to the Bhagavad Gita? Recently, I heard Radha is Lord Krishna's aunt. No, not aunt. So it's actually not mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Radha is a more elevated subject matter, which only comes up in later book in more advanced books, such as the Srimad, even in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a more deeper study of bhakti and of Krishna. You won't see Radha. It's such an esoteric topic, but basically, what Radha is the female aspect of God, because in the Vedic viewpoint, we have a male and female expansion of the Lord. So God isn't just masculine. It's not just a patriarchal thing, and it's not just a matriarchal thing. It's actually the combination yin and yang. So Radha is the female aspect of God that goes with Krishna. And then other aspects of God, like Narayan has Lakshmi, Rama has Sita. So you see different Bhagavan forms. I explain this in my book, The 3T Path. It's a bit of a deep topic. We explain this in the course as well. These Bhagavan forms have their female counterpart. So Radha is the female counterpart of Krishna, is God the mother, not God the father. Okay. Um, ah, oops, I skipped here. Here we go. Thank you so much. Victoria, I'm interested in connecting with your student in Crete. Oh, yeah. So join the course and yeah, she'll be there in the WhatsApp group and you'll be able to connect with her. Jai Lakshmi, so connected to the answer given before, so it is not our dharma to correct our elder sibling, brothers, sister, or any other elders in the family. We can correct our younger siblings, kids, and husband. Yes, that is the proper connections, right? Of course, you can say a word of advice, but don't expect anybody to change, right? It's hard to make people change. It's not good to. It's almost just like your children. Yeah, you can try to, it's your duty to try to mold them the best way you can, but other people, even husbands and wives, you don't really try that. Cheryl, good afternoon from Wales. Cheryl, you're in Wales. That's nice. Tell me what town you're in, please. Okay, I am diagnosed with depersonalization, derealization disorder. Yes, this can happen, right? This is a serious thing that can happen from meditation. How do I know if I haven't just simply begun freeing myself from ego? Greetings from Bavaria, Germany. Well, you have to be very careful with that. Okay, so I would say be really careful with that, you know, seek advice and help from professionals because that is a very dangerous situation. And I know there's parallels to it in spiritual life where you depersonalize and dematerialize, but you don't want to go down that path because actually the path of Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna teaches in Bhagavad Gita is what I call the path of enlightened life. And in that path, you're not depersonalized. He doesn't teach that. You're not disconnected from life. No. In fact, Arjuna wanted to leave his role as a warrior. He wanted to walk out and become a beggar. And Krishna says, no, you can't do that. It is your dharma to fight. You must stay here and fight. You're the leader. They're counting on you. You have to perform your purpose, your dharma, your duty. This is the path of Bhagavad Gita. So we don't want to depersonalize. We want it to be very much connected. Okay, I'm this. I've got the family. I've got friends. I've got my job. I got my occupation. You definitely want to grab on to be here and then live out these dharmas as an offering to Krishna, as I taught in the first class. You don't want to be this disconnected thing. Oh, I'm not. I'm this kind of. No, we don't disconnect from the ego. What we do is we overcome the false ego, ahankar in Sanskrit, which means identification with the material body, but not disconnecting from things. We just understand that, okay, I have this body now and I accept it. I accept my body and I accept my roles in life and I accept my responsibilities as Arjuna had to accept his responsibilities, his dharma. So definitely, seek treatment for that. Don't let that take any further grasp of your mind. Get involved, you know, get involved with friends, with family, with your nation, with your community, with, helping the world, whatever is your vocational dharma. Get involved, but as an offering to God in the here and now, not as a materialist. But you have to be very careful with that. Shishmaldi, Namaste and Hare Krishna. Please, can I ask you, about when a life ends, when a baby passes away when very young. How has it participated in fulfilling its dharma and karma? Well, Shish, you just don't know what their karma was. Sometimes their karma was just to have a little brief period. Sometimes it's to die in the womb of the mother. Okay, that's all you're going to experience is just that little bit. For example, there's a very curious passage in the Srimad Bhagavatam that says that babies at a certain point, I don't remember how many months, I think it's, I don't know, 7 months or something. But, the 7-month-old embryo in the womb all of a sudden becomes like totally awake, consciously awake, and realizes its position as a soul who is now reincarnating. And it's like, oh no, what am I doing here? Oh no, I fell again into the cycle of birth and death. I can't believe I was so stupid in my last life and I didn't pay attention to it. So now I'm here again. But no, now God, I will take shelter of you. Please help me. And it's like there's this whole section. It's a really curious section in Bhagavad in the Srimad where this little, the seventh the embryo is like this time, oh God, please, I'm completely now. I'm gonna take it seriously now. I'm totally focused on my spiritual life. This is insane. I can't believe I fell into this again, and I'm taking birth again. I can't believe so the whole it just goes on like that for so many verses. But then when the moment of birth comes, it forgets everything. The trauma, the experience of being born, just like he forgets all these things and he gets caught up again in material life. So, so maybe that soul is like, okay, from that point, that's all you needed was that, and that soul is gone. Sometimes it only has, it's got so much, it doesn't have enough sufficient karma to be in a human body. There's another passage of the scriptures where these elevated beings, these great elevated beings beyond even these demigods, they get cursed. They act badly towards a great cosmic sage. So they get cursed, and the sage curses them, you will take birth on earth. And it's like for these elevated beings, it's like, oh God, are you serious? Like, oh man, take birth as a human? God. It's like the worst thing, it's like really bad. It's like the worst. It's the pits, it's like, oh God, taking birth as Mm, human? Come on, these great, powerful cosmic beings. Again, remember, if you think about these Marvel movies, these super cosmic beings like take birth as a human. Oh, come on, be serious. So they're like, oh God, no, please. So they're like, no, please, Sage, come on, please, 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 please. Look, we're super sorry. I know we're so stupid to have offended you. Please, please take this curse back. And he says, okay, okay. You'll be born and immediately you will die. I said, "Oh, thank you so much." So, these sometimes the baby dies and it's like the soul, that's what the soul arranged. And it's like, oh, thank God I'm going to die quickly. Who wants to be a human? I don't want to be a human, you know? So you just don't know. You just have to accept that different souls have different paths and different karmas. Virginia. Hi, I'm Virginia from Italy. Virginia, I would like to ask you what kind of influence culture has on our personal community dharma, since things like family relationships, gender role, hierarchy, etc., change so much from place to place. Hey, it has a huge influence, right? And we also should influence our culture. So we should choose the right culture and we should choose to accept or reject things that were passed on to us from our culture. So we have this, the right and the ability to reshape our culture towards something more sattvic, more intelligent. Yeah, the why for Occidental people is it so difficult to live the present? Well, not just for people in the West, it's hard for everyone. Let's be honest. It's not people in India, they're not all in the here and now. Everybody's going crazy in India and China and Japan. Everybody's going crazy the same way all over the world. The reason why people can't stay in the here and now is because they're in the fantasy paradigm. Their mind is in the future. They're materialists. They're trying to change matter. They think life will get better when they change matter. Oh, I need more money. I need to be in that place with that dress, with that phone, with that house, with with that car. I need to be this. I need to be that. I need to be experiencing that. And their minds are in the future. or they haven't cured their emotional baggage. So they're like in the past, oh, he said that and he did that and she said that and oh, that hurts and I can't believe that. And they can go back to the past. So it's emotional trauma and it's materialistic mentality keeps people out of the here and now. I call this the fantasy paradigm in the 3T path. So we have to train our minds to be in the here and now. It's a whole lifelong exercise. Cindy, thank you for clarifying the meat and seafood issue. Can you clarify a bit about karma? Which bit about karma? Please be more specific. But the karma of eating meat, is that what it is? Well, because you're killing an innocent animal, so that's going to be a heavy karma, right? If I kill for pleasure, that's if you take a wild guess, would killing for pleasure accumulate good or bad karma? Like press one for good karma, press two for bad karma. I mean, come on, it's like, duh. You're killing for pleasure. You're killing for the pleasure of the tongue. And in the process, you're destroying the planet and hurting your body. I mean, how's that not bad karma? That is bad karma in all the senses of the word. It's bad immediate karma because you're destroying your body and your mind. It's bad karma because you're causing pain to the animal that was killed. It's bad karma because that industry is killing more creatures and destroying the planet, which is causing so much suffering. Look at Pakistan. Pakistan is underwater. Why? Climate change. So, like, you were eating meat, and that meat eating has caused climate change, which is now killing thousands of people in Pakistan. So, as that, think about the karma there. It's really heavy. Um, Peace performance. Hello from Netherlands. What do you do when you don't feel like you fit in the system, but you also have no money, but you want to practice spirituality? Yes. I was just writing to my spiritual master this morning about this topic because it's a fact. There's a system now. Can't escape it. And we read these old books and these old texts about people wandering off into the world. But there's a system, man. You can't escape it. You can't wander off anymore. There's nowhere to go. Everything is owned, everything is controlled. It's a capitalistic world. So you have to have capital. They forced it upon you. There's no escaping. Oh, I want to be a monk. Yeah, you're going to get to the temple and they're just going to make you raise money because it's all about raising money because they need the money as well. They have bills to pay, they have food to buy. It's the same thing. That's no solution. So you just have to play the game. Real spirituality, again, the real spirituality of Bhagavad Gita, that's the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. It is not a fantasy spiritual life. There is no talk in Bhagavad Gita or other, important yogic texts about leaving, going to an ashram, joining a temple. There's no talk of this. Arjuna is our example. He was, he was a general. He was a prince of the world. He was a, commander. He had to work. He had wives, he had children, he had grandchildren, he had horses and elephants and houses and chariots. And that's how it works. You just have to be there. It's how you live. So we don't have to run away from life. Go ahead. We can be in the system, but in yoga. So yeah, study, get a job, do whatever. You have to maintain yourself. There's no running. There's just can't escape that. There's no need to like be a, you can't be a child about it. You have to work. You have to make money. It sucks, but that's the way it is. That is your karma. So you just have to do it, but you do it in the here and now. You do it focused on Dharma, you do it focused on bhakti, and then it's not so bad, then it's nice. Because your state of mind is yogic. You're not a materialist. You're not stuck in matter. So try living the Bhagavad Gita, and you'll see that it's not going to be a painful experience. It's going to be an enlightening experience. Even though from the outside it looks like you're in a rat race, and you just, oh, I have to pay bills and this, but it's a different experience. Good morning to all. Age 0 to 7, theta wave dream state is so crucial. Oops. Where is that? Ah, it's so crucial to setting your worldview. If you grew up in India, it would be different, of course. Um, Oh, and here Buddha Yoga says Krish and Christ in Kemetic mummification prophecy related to Krishna, Christos. Yeah, actually, no, though. Krishna is from the word attract, and Christos is just a Greek word. Again, it's a Greek religion, a Greek word for Messiah, which is the Hebrew word for a king. So that's a whole other thing you can study. It's actually there's no connection between Christos and Krishna in that sense of the word. Forget that. That's just a silly thing people say. It's got nothing to do with it. So the connection is that Jesus was a lover of God and Krishna is God. That's the connection. Jesus is the Son and Krishna is the Father. That's the connection. Okay, Rita says thank you so much, Giridhari ji. And Shish also thank you very much. And oh, Buddha Yoga says if population growth is exponential, does that mean that brand new souls are exponentially starting? No, no. There's a whole video in this channel. By the way, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe and become a member of the channel. So there's a whole video in this channel about answering that question. If you write to me, I'll leave you the link, or if you can search here for it. But of course, now the souls exist all over the universe since time immemorial. No souls are created, but souls come here or leave, and there's so many souls here in different forms, and they can go from one form to another. So there's no such issue because souls aren't limited to humans on earth. Shiz says, does your dharma change as you age? Can you get one aspect of your dharma? Yes, your dharmas are changing along the day throughout your life. Of course they are. Of course they are. So you have to, like, what's going on right now. You can have a job and then you retire, you can have children, but then they grow up or they die. Yeah, you have a husband and you have a divorce or they die. Yes, changing all the time. It's always changing. Of course, any moment something else happens, you get a disease, you have some other dharma, something else comes up. It's always changing. You always have to be attentive. Jodie Foster Simp. I am obsessed with Jodie Foster. I can see that. I am in love crazy with Jodie Foster. Okay, good for you. Yikes, Ronald Reagan better watch out. Okay, Cindy, I had emailed you about karma. What I mean is when a child is abused, I want to make sure. Oh, yes, I wrote you back, Cindy. So you have a whole email waiting for you with that answer. If you didn't get it, let me know. All right, guys, it's been amazing here. I love your questions. You guys had excellent questions. It was a real pleasure being here with you. Don't forget, the course enrollment is now open. The description, I should have said that before, but I forgot. I got carried away. So check out the description here of the video. You can enroll in the full Bhagavad Gita course starting today up until Wednesday. You can enroll in the full Bhagavad Gita course. I recommend it. You will love the course. All my students love it. We'll be together in a WhatsApp group. We'll have monthly encounters, and you have the whole course accessible to you to watch at any time, as many times as you want, from your tablet, phone, computer, whatever, in any part of the world at any time of the day. So make sure you sign up, go deeper, understand, and take this opportunity to go, to advance your spiritual life with Bhagavad Gita. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for participating in Bhagavad Gita Week. And any questions you have, just leave a comment here in the video. I will be answering all comments. Hare Krishna.